Now back with us this week, we have Brother Ghatikara Loo to share on the Majjhima Nikāya 131. Is it a lucky day today? Part 1. Over to you, Balu.
Yeah, thank you very much, Brother Terence, for the very kind introduction. And a very good morning, brothers and sisters in the Dhamma. I'm indeed very happy this morning, that I'm able to share and discuss the Dhamma with you this morning. Okay, so before we begin with today's Dhamma sharing and discussion, let us first of all put our palms together in Anjali, and pay our highest and deepest homage to the Buddha, the Blessed One, whom through his effort and compassion, he has rediscovered the path to liberation, and that has enabled us to practice the true Dhamma. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Okay, very good morning again, brothers and sisters in the Dhamma. Okay, so for the Dhamma discussion this morning, I've actually selected a sutta from the Majjhima Nikāya, which is the Middle Length Discourses, and this is actually and I've actually selected this sutta, with the title, with a rather interesting title as well. Is it a lucky day today? Okay, as I said, I've actually selected the sutta from MN 131, and this is actually, it's a very interesting sutta, and of course, the title of the sutta is an auspicious day. Auspicious means lucky. I find this this sutta very interesting because, as you know, this being auspicious, and being lucky, is something that has actually fascinated man for a very long time, since time immemorial. It's so customary for us, like, whenever we go before we actually attend any important functions, be it say, for example, major public exams, or when you're going for maybe your first your first day in a job, or when you're actually about to embark on something that's actually important, inevitably people actually would then wish you, all the best, best of luck, wishing you good luck, in all your endeavors, So luck is something that's actually very fascinating. It's also very interesting because it is actually what all of us actually wish for, right? That we all wish for to be happy, um to be well, to be secure, and we actually wish luck for people whom we love, whom we treasure, So luck is something that's actually fascinated man for a long time, if you look at it, for example, in the Western civilizations, there's some items which are very specifically linked to luck. Like, for example, the four-leaf clover, if you actually happen to stumble upon the four-leaf clover, then you say, oh, it's a lucky day for me, right? And also some very interesting things, like, for example, like a rabbit foot, strangely is also something that's very lucky. So you find like some keychains actually have got rabbit foot, as the item, in the for the keychain. Things like horseshoe, strangely, it is also something that it's supposed to actually bring, luck, And of course, if you actually come to the to the say the to the east, to certain Asian culture, of course, we also have our notions of luck as well. For example, in India, for example, elephants, for example, like white elephants, are often regarded as very as something as animals that actually bring luck, and bring a lot of good fortune, and be very auspicious, animals like elephants, especially white elephants. And of course, uh, I mean, of course, like China, we all regard dragons, as something that's actually very lucky, very auspicious, you know. Um, and of course, in the West, they regard it like, all these mythical animals like unicorns, as very lucky as well, right? So, and this luck, seems to seep into every fabric of our society, like even when it comes to numbers, we are so, um, we are actually so engrossed, and so fixated on luck. For example, for the Chinese, 8 is something that's very lucky. And for the Westerners, seven, lucky seven, is always something that is very regarded as lucky. And of course, the reverse, number 13, is something that the Westerners don't like. But strangely, the Asians actually, the Chinese like 13 very much, because of the way it's actually being pronounced and all this. So we actually have our own interpretations and of our own uh we are actually being conditioned by all this in terms of what is lucky, and also like colors, all this, red is regarded as lucky, black is not, and even down to days as well, like for example, have you ever heard of even Buddhists, they only do dana on full moon, and new moon days. For example, if they want to actually make donations for dana, right, and for this particular vihara, and they'll inevitably book those days which are new moon and full moon only, Any other days, I say, no, I don't want, I only want new moon and full moon because these are actually very lucky days, The other days are not so much lucky, so my merits are not so much, but, new moon and full moon days are very lucky, So you can see this notion of luck, has actually, in a way, conditioned us, right? And it's actually sit into every single, into the very deep fabric of our society, that we are very much conditioned, by, this notion of luck, to the extent that we actually have like auspicious days. We select certain days, especially for those, who wish, to get married, or they want to move to a new house, inevitably, they will then consult maybe, the feng shui masters, and look for lucky days and all this. So then the next question that arises is, so what is this lucky day, you know, uh, and based on the suttas, what exactly is this lucky day? If you were to pose this question to the Buddha, right, if the Buddha was still alive today, and if you were to pose this question to the Blessed One, the Buddha, as if he were alive today, and you ask him this question, so Buddha, Blessed One, what do you think, is actually a lucky day, So, it would be interesting to actually find out exactly what the Buddha would regard as a lucky day. So that's why I've actually selected this sutta, uh, from extracted from this MN131, and is actually entitled An Auspicious Day. So let us find out, and pose this question to the Buddha, um, and actually just and find out, how the Buddha would actually answer this question, as recorded in the suttas, huh? So if I just go to this MN131, maybe I'll just go through this uh, uh, sutta, Okay, so there was one occasion the Blessed One was actually staying in Savatthi, So Savatthi is actually in a region in India, somewhere in the northeastern of India, that is very near to the Himalayan regions, and that's where Savatthi is, and other kingdoms, like for example, the Kosala kingdom and all this, and uh Kosambi, Kosala, all these they're very near to each other in the northeastern part um, of India, and that's also where, next to the Himalayan mountains, that's also where the Ganges River actually flows, so Savatthi, So the Buddha was actually staying, in Jeta's Grove in Anathapindika's monastery, So then there was this Dhamma discourse, that was actually given by the Buddha, to the monks, and the Blessed One actually asked the monks, and say, he tells the monks, monks, I'll teach you the summary and exposition of one who has had an auspicious day, So the Buddha actually gave this discourse, to actually explain to the monks what exactly an auspicious day is, So listen and pay attention, close attention, and I'll speak, So of course the monks, they gladly comply and they say, yeah, as you say, Lord, So the Blessed One said, this um, very famous stanza as well. If you read a lot of the quotations, which are given in the social media, a lot of times about this Buddha quotes and all this, some are true, some are actually fake quotes, so but you need to be careful, But in this MN 131, the Buddha says this, you shouldn't chase after the past, or place expectations on the future. What is past is really left behind. It's really water under the bridge. There's nothing much you can do about it, And the future is yet unreached, It's something uncertain, something in the future, something that has not happened yet, It is something that's on a forward-looking basis, It hasn't happened yet. So, but then the Buddha says, whatever quality is present, you clearly see right there and right here and right there, and you should not be taken in, and you shouldn't be unshaken, for whatever that you see right here and right now, That is how you should develop the heart. This is what the Buddha says, you shouldn't be concerned about what is already happened in the past, and don't worry too much, into the future, you know. So you should actually be concerned, about what is present right now and right here, and um, what you clearly see right now and right, at this very moment, and you should not be taken in, and you shouldn't be shaken, by whatever that happens, in the present moment. Taken in means, you actually you becomes like very attached to it, you're very affected by it, and you're very involved in it, you regard it as something that that is capable, or worth clinging to, and grasping, then that's what the Buddha says by taken in, and you're being shaken, that's how you should develop the heart, and ardently doing what should be done today, the Buddha says, for who knows tomorrow, death might come, there's no bargaining with mortality, and his mighty horde. So the Buddha says, this mortality or death is something that we cannot bargain, then there's actually no telling when it may come knocking on the door. It may happen anytime, So what you should do is you should ardently do, what should be done today, And the Buddha says, whoever lives thus ardently, relentlessly, means you do this with much effort, assiduously, and you do this day in, both day and night, without, and without, relentlessly, and without actually giving up, and putting in effort, all your effort to it, towards this practicing, being in the current present moment, looking at what actually happens right here and right now, and don't look to the past, and and actually don't be fixated about the future, and don't worry about the future. What you have is actually the current moment, the present moment. The present moment is actually what you have right now, So make the best of it, So, and the Buddha actually says, do not be taken, by what happens to you right at the moment, whether it's actually whatever there's unpleasant, even if it's pleasant as well, do not be taken in, do not actually, cling and grasp, onto all whatever that happens in the current moment, and you should practice this day and night, relentlessly, without stopping, and putting in all the effort, that you can actually gather, and the Buddha says, if you do this, then this person truly has had an auspicious day. So says, the peaceful sage. So says the Buddha. If you can do this, just this very simple thing, of just being present in the in the present moment, being aware, um, that means, you apply your mindfulness, like what I mentioned to you, on the six sense doors, anchor your mind on the six sense doors, because once you are able to anchor your mind on the six sense doors, then it becomes easier for you to actually watch your mind. Do you know you'll be able to watch how your mind reacts to the six sense objects that actually impinge on your sense doors, how your mind reacts to it, whether there's actually anything, that's unpleasant, that unwholesome, in respect of loba, dosa, moha, that's actually arisen in your mind. That's when you practice the chitta nupassana, and you do this by actually fixing anchoring your mindfulness on a six sense basis, in terms of, uh, being aware, what happens, at your sixth sense, or at the sixth sense basis, So chitta nupassana, Dhamma nupassana, because you're actually looking at the five six sense doors, and also investigating, your five aggregates. So if you can do this, just this very simple thing, being mindful, applying this samatha in vipassana means you must have this sati sampajanya. Sati means you're being aware. What happens to your mind. When the six sense objects come into contact with your six sense bases. So if you actually are able to just be aware of that, you actually have sati already. It's like you actually collect a very complete data as to what happens to your mind, right, upon these six objects coming into contact. But sati alone is not good enough. Other than sati, you must also have sampajanya. Sampajanya is actually where the vipassana part comes in. And I will actually then explain to you how you should actually practice the vipassana part of it. Because a lot of times we are aware of sati, because we are aware, for example, anger has risen, greed has risen, we all know, sati, we all know, but we fail to actually exercise sampajanya and practice sampajanya. That's where the vipassana part comes in. So this is what the Buddha says. If you can just do this part, in the present moment alone, if you can do this without actually stopping, relentlessly day and night. If you can do this for the whole day, just being aware of the six sense doors, contemplating the five aggregates, looking at, how, they are actually, something that is like a boil, a dart, something like a cancer, something, that is, devoid of, a permanent and changing self. If you can just do this, the Buddha says you would have had an auspicious day. That's what the Buddha says. And of course, the Buddha then explained in terms of, um, what actually, what does it mean by actually for someone that's chasing after the past? And the Buddha says, he asked the monks, how monks does one chase after the past? And here the Buddha explains, one gets carried away, with delight. I had such a body in the past. I had this feeling. I have this perception. I had this volitional formations, this sankhara. And I have this vijnana, this consciousness. So you actually have this this you grasp in the past in respect of your five aggregates in terms of your body, feelings, perceptions, in terms of the sankhara, in terms of the vijnana. So you actually you cling to what you had in terms of the five aggregates in the past. So this is what the Buddha says, you chase after the past. And the Buddha says, how does one not chase after the past? Of course, then it's the reverse. He does not get carried away. Means he does not actually become, like, he's like, grasping, and keep thinking about, in the past, I had such a wonderful time, with all these wonderful moments, I had such wonderful food, wonderful companion, I had such wonderful time, all the wonderful feelings, the pleasant feelings I had, the wonderful, all these perceptions, all these formations and consciousness I had. He kept on thinking about, all the experiences that I had experienced in the five aggregates in the past. You know, and this is actually what the Buddha says. By one chasing after the past. If you actually are not carried away, then you are not chasing after the past. Then, of course, the Buddha goes on to explain how does one place expectations on the future. Then the Buddha says, if you actually get carried away with delight, in terms of the five aggregates, in the future, hopefully, I have this five aggregates. May I be able to enjoy, all these nice experiences, these nice moments, these nice perceptions, all these nice consciousness, let me enjoy the six sense bases, the six sense doors. May I have all this nice food to eat, nice company, this you keep on thinking about the future, hoping to have these five aggregates. That's when you expect, you place expectations in the future. And how does one not place expectations in the future? Of course, it's then the reverse. You don't actually then harbor all these clinging and grasping, and and delight and, desire, about, your five aggregates are in the future, something that's going to happen in the future, you actually have this longing, and this like desire and grasping for this five aggregates happening in the future, okay. And the next, this is where the meaty part is. The Buddha says, and how is one taken in with regard to present qualities, uh, even when you're in the present moment, the Buddha says, even if you are actually be aware, in the present moment, means that you actually have sati, but because you have no sampajanya, you actually are taken in with the present qualities, means that you grasp, to the present moment, because you don't have sampajanya, there is no wise reflection, So that's why sati alone is not good enough. You must have sampajanya, So I see, even now, if you have the present qualities, means you are actually aware of the present moment, but you are taken in, means you are very affected and you're swayed by what happens in the present moment. And how is this? This is the case when uninstructed run-of-the-mill person, this is the Putu Jana, the one who is actually not an Arya yet, not a Sotapanna, or not even a path not even someone on the path to towards stream entry, So this is actually a Putujana, uninstructed run-of-the-mill person. He does not see the noble ones, and he's not well versed in the Dhamma as taught by the Blessed One, and he's not trained in the teachings of the noble one. So for such a Putujana, how does he actually see the present moment? He sees a form as self, and self as possessing form. Means he see this form, whatever that's form, the body itself, he sees it actually as a form, as he sees it as a self, that, and he actually regards that this self actually is possessing in form, and form as in self, and self as in form. Means he regards this body as something that's actually permanent, and he doesn't want it to change, like so often, right, we actually hear stories of people going for plastic surgery, going to actually tighten the skin, to make it more luscious, more luster, to make it better looking, and the moment they see wrinkles, or they become very, very perturbed, very unhappy. Oh, this sign of aging is, coming. And then when you have, see strands of white hair, oozing from your scalp, well, then you become so agitated. It's, oh no, I'm having white hair now, it's like, this is so unsightly, and how can it be, my hair is supposed to be black, how can it have white? How can it turn white now? This cannot happen, and you become very, very perturbed, very agitated, become very uh very discouraged, So this is someone is taken in, by the present moment, know. So, and he regards the body as self, means that the body shouldn't change. It should be like that, and my body should be healthy, and I eat organic food all the time, I exercise, how can I have this illness? It's really impossible, it cannot be like that, I expect my body to be healthy, to have self. This is what the Buddha says, that you're taken in with the present moment, and he sees feeling as self, and self as possessing feeling. So which means he regards this feeling to have a self, means atta, means it cannot be, it cannot change, it shouldn't be dependently arisen, it must have a permanent unchanging self. Whatever it is, I want my happiness to continue. I cannot allow this happiness to go away. Whatever happiness, I want it to stay. It should be like that. And I don't want this unhappiness or sorrow to come to me. It shouldn't come to me. And all these unpleasant feelings. I shouldn't have all these unpleasant feelings. Only pleasant feelings should come to me. And I want this pleasant feeling to continue as far as I can. And I don't want it to change. It's like and whenever something happens, you become very discouraged and very agitated. So, oh, oh, why does this happen to me? I should be happy. I shouldn't this is pleasant feeling I should continue forever, So this is actually where someone, he regards self in everything, he regards that this feeling to have a um permanent self. The same thing as well, in terms of a perception as well, he doesn't want all the he doesn't want the perception to change. There is a self to it, and whatever perceptions he has, it shouldn't change, whatever that his perceptions has been conditioned. He expects it to be same, and he holds very firmly to whatever perceptions he has, and he refuses to change his perceptions, and of course the consciousness as well. He actually regards the consciousness, as a self, that he thinks that this consciousness is going to follow me from life to life through all the transmigration, from one life to another, uh, you know, um, uh, and he doesn't expect he regards this consciousness to have a permanent self, and it's not dependently arisen, of course, we all know this in terms of the pernicious view, held by Sati, the fisherman's son, right? In terms of, he actually regarded this consciousness as something that is permanent, unchanging, and he is not dependently arisen, not dependently arisen upon what? Upon the sense object, and the sense base, and the contact, upon these trains coming together, the sense consciousness comes into play, right? That's how it's dependently arisen. But this person doesn't believe in all this. The consciousness, is actually my soul, my permanent, unchanging soul, and this is going to follow me. The same consciousness is going to follow me from life to life, and it's going to remain the same, and I'm going to, go to heaven, with this same consciousness, that I have, So it's like clinging to this consciousness, So this is actually what the Buddha says, in terms of someone who is actually very, um, uh, very taken in, in terms of the present moment, in terms of this five, aggregates, these five aggregates, he actually holds firmly to them as having a permanent unchanging self. And then the Buddha says, how is one not taken, with regard to these present qualities, how is it that you can actually practice such that you are not taken in? Means you are not actually affected, and you are not swayed, and you are not agitated, and you are actually not affected, by this present moment. Whatever that happens, to you, in regard to your five aggregates, um, you are not affected by it. You remain very calm, very cool, very equanimous. You don't actually you're not affected by it. So that is like really, it's really, the peace that you have. It's the happiness that's actually way surpasses the worldly happiness. It's the equanimous state of mind. That you feel not perturbed at all. You know this is actually the intrinsic nature, of all sankharas, of all conditioned or constructed phenomena. So the Buddha says, uh, he or she does not see uh, how is one not taken in with regard to these present qualities. This is where somebody has sati and also sampajanya. It's just not seeing things as the rise or fall or pass away, but also he applies sampajanya to it. To in terms of vipassana, looking at the true underlying nature, of all existence and sankharas, and all phenomena. So this is a case where a disciple of the noble ones, where he sees the noble ones. He's well versed in the Dhamma. He's well trained in the teachings of the noble ones. And he does not see form as a self. And or self as having a form. And of course, or form as in self or self as in form, and he does not see, the other aggregates as well, the feelings, perceptions, the sankhara, the volitional formations, and the consciousness. So he does not see the five aggregates, as self, which means he actually he is able to regard the five aggregates as what? As non-self, as anatta, So he actually applies, the practice of what the Buddha says, the kaya gata sati, kaya gata sati, is actually, is often translated by a lot of even scholars, to mean, uh, contemplation, of the body, the kaya, But actually, if you actually read the suttas, kaya, is actually used by the Buddha in various contexts, and in the context of kaya gata sati, there are many very strong, compelling evidence, that kaya does not just mean body, but it sometimes it means, like personally, like personally, is yourself, as in is actually referring to how contemplating, how your mind reacts to the six sense doors, to the six sense objects that come into contact with the six sense bases. So when you practice this Kaya Gata Sati by watching your mind, and seeing the non-self nature of the five aggregates through the six sense doors, I will further explain to this in part 2 of my talk, how you can actually contemplate non-self. So I can see here non-self is actually something that is very, 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 very unique to the Dhamma as taught by the Blessed One. No other teachings in the world, can you ever find a teaching based on non-self? And this anatta, teaching on non-self, is actually the true crown jewel of the Buddha's teaching. Nowhere else, if you actually look at any religion in the world, nowhere else, is there a teaching on non-self. And this is something that's very deep and profound, that only Sotapanna, who has actually knows and sees the Dhamma, is able to have this abhisamanya, this the truth, about to see the Dhamma, that actually there's non-self, in the five aggregates, in fact, in all the sankharas, there's non-self. In fact, there's actually non-self in all the Dhamma, in all the phenomena itself, Sape Dhamma Anatta, So actually, it's actually all the Dhamma, whatever Dhamma, whatever things actually are non-self, is. So if you are able to see this, then you know, it's something that's very subtle, only, a Sotapanna, a stream enterer, who knows and sees, and able to, break through, into the Dhamma, is able to truly understand, and he actually experiences this, he actually verifies this experientially, personally, through contemplation, that, this teaching of non-self is actually true, That's why this Sotapanna, has got unshakable, verified confidence. It's not just faith, in the worldly sense, as in you just hold on to the faith, tenaciously, and using a lot of effort. Oh, I must believe. Actually, for the Sotapanna, it comes effortlessly, because he knows that it is actually true. What the Buddha taught is actually true, and because he knows that this non-self is actually something that's intrinsically true for all phenomena, for all dhammas, is actually non-self. That's why he knows what the Buddha taught is actually true. And of course, all dhammas, of course, include the five aggregates as well. But it starts with the five aggregates. Then he is able to see, once he actually contemplates all this, he's able to see all the dhammas, as actually anatta. So if you're able to practice this non-self, just for one practice of non-self, just for one day, if you just be present in the present moment, just be aware, and have this open mindfulness, this open mindfulness, on whatever that happens to your six sense basis, upon contact with the six sense objects, and how your mind reacts to it, by applying this sati sampajanya, and then contemplating, how each of these this phenomena, and of course your five aggregates arises through causes and conditions, and how they're dependent arisen, and because of that, they are void of a self, like a dart, like a boil, like a cancer, like like something that's actually really, like really not worth clinging to at all, So if you can just experientially verify this, to be true, where that's where you see the light of Dhamma arising in you, and you see the Dhamma eye arising in you, you become a stream enterer. That's where, it's like it's even better, more superior, and excels even if you're your universal monarch, you can be the king, or the queen of the world, or the prince or the princess, and all the treasures in the world. The Buddha says that is not even worth 1/16 of you achieving, Sotapatti, how wonderful it is. If you can just practice just one day, you're able to see this non-self truth, this intrinsic nature, of all sankharas, of all phenomena, and of all dhamma, intrinsically, then the Buddha says, if you can just practice this for one day, the Buddha says, then you would actually have had an auspicious day. It's a lucky day because you are actually moving one step closer to actually achieving Sotapatti. What better, what else, can it be better than, So the Buddha says that it's not about like, oh, my lucky day, because, I've got, I hit, the jackpot, or, great fortunes I'm able to get and all this. Yeah, those are worldly happiness, lah, But the Buddha says a truly auspicious, truly lucky day is where you're able to practice this, we're able to anchor your sati, your mindfulness on just your six sense doors, and be aware, all the six sense objects that come into contact with you, and be aware, apply sati first, and of course, you need samatha and vipassana for that, because samatha, the moment you come into contact, you may be very agitated, you may be very angry, you may be furious, so you need samatha to calm yourself. Otherwise, your mind is actually boiling with madness. You cannot actually see, so you need samatha, and you actually need to calm yourself down first, to tranquil your mind, after, the sati has been applied and you applied samatha, then, you need to actually go into something that, the crown jewel of the Buddha's teaching, which is actually to look at how all these Dhamma arises through what? Through causes and conditions, how they are dependently arisen through conditions, everything, arises through conditions, if you think about it very carefully, the beautiful plant, flowers, orchids you have, what is there? Is there because of what? Because of fertilizers, because of soil, because of the water you water, because of the sunlight you have, and all the gardening conditions you have, only then, it bursts into full bloom, right? Okay. If ever one day, you decide, to stop the fertilizers, and just, let it just wither, don't water it. Do you think the nice, um, you know, uh, whatever lah, sakura flowers, or, or whatever flowers the best of the most beautiful flowers, you think they will last? No, they're conditioned, they're conditioned, everything is conditioned, it's non-self, it's anatta, everything is dependently arisen. Once any of these conditions change, whatever you see changes. That's why whatever the Buddha says, viparanama, dukkha, sankhara dukkha, everything is going towards degradation, and everything is going towards uh, worsening and weakening and deterioration, and Sankhara Sutta, everything changes, nothing's changed. It's there for, forever, So if you are able to see this non-self nature, which is so profound in the Buddha's teaching, you would have actually broken through to the Dhamma and see the light of Dhamma, and that's where the Dhamma arises. Everything, you see the light, you see the oil lamp, you see, everything, is there because of what? The oil, the wick, the fire, and the air, So because of that, there's actually luminosity. If you do not have all these conditions, do you think the brightness will still be there? It will be gone. Same as shadow, everything is because of the sunlight being blocked by the tree, everything is actually dependently arisen, nothing stays constant even for a single time, and how can we ever say that there is a self in anything, once the constituents, the parts that actually form this thing change, the end result also changes. And once it actually disappears, the whole thing just disappears and just evaporates, this or just disappears into thin air, it's that profound, So the Buddha says, if you can actually practice this just for one day, the Buddha says that you would have had, a very auspicious lucky day. And if you see this Samyutta Nikāya 22.1, um, this sutta itself, you can go back and actually refer to it. I just extract this just for your information. This Nakula Pitta, it was a very devout Buddhist. Nakula Mata and Nakula Pitta, remember they are actually very loving husband and wife, and they're very devout Buddhists, and they follow the Buddha's teaching very assiduously, and there came a time when this Nakula Pitta was really very old, burdened with years, and came to a last stage of his life, and his body was ill, And then one day he was thinking, hey, I rarely go to the Buddha to see the Buddha, and I rarely also see the bhikkhus worthy of esteem because the Buddha actually travels from one place to another to spread the Dhamma. So during that time, even the people staying, in Savatthi, or in the Kosalan kingdom, they actually didn't actually get much to see the Buddha. Unlike now, we can actually flip through the sutta and read whatever Buddha has actually delivered. In fact, we, in a way, we are actually very lucky. We're able to read all the suttas, all the Nikayas you can read, and be inspired, by the Buddha's teaching. But during the Buddha's time, not many people actually had the chance, to see the Buddha, especially lay people, unless you're very close to Buddha, like strong supporter like Ananda Pindika, Visakha and all this, But if you're just normal Buddhists, are very usually rather rare to see it. So I see so that's why he says I rarely get to see the Blessed One. So so he actually implored the Buddha, he actually asked the Buddha, let the Blessed One, exhort me, and instruct me, that will lead me to my welfare and happiness. So which means he wanted the Buddha to actually give a Dhamma talk that will inspire him to practice it, because this Nakula Pitta knows that it's almost time for him, before he expects that his life may not be that long anymore. So he wants to actually practice in the last phase of his life, Then the Buddha tells him just a very short stanza, which is also something very uh, uh, very famous, like what we actually see. You see here, the Buddha says here, he taught this uh, very simple Dhamma, you see. Although, I'm actually afflicted in body, my mind will be unafflicted. Thus should you train yourself. It's a very famous Buddha quote, right? Says, let me be afflicted or sick in the body, but let me not be sick in mind. This is actually something that's often quoted, I may be sick in my body, but let my mind not be sick, So it's a very short Dhamma teaching, thus should you train yourself, And this Nakalopita, once he heard this, he delighted and rejoiced in the Buddha's words. He rose from his seat, and just left, So he didn't actually ask the Buddha, exactly what do you mean by that? Let my body be sick, but let my mind not be sick. What do you mean by that actually? Let my mind not be sick, So then he just left, then after that, he paid homage to the Buddha, and then he keeping the Buddha on his right, as part of respect, then he approached Venerable Sariputta, Then he paid respect to Venerable Sariputta, he sat to one side, and this Venerable Sariputta said to him, um, Upasaka, householder, your faculties are so serene, your facial complexion is pure and bright, he noticed something different about Nakula Pitta, because once you actually hear the Buddha's teaching, you become inspired and and spiritually uplifted. There's something different about your face or complexion. You become very bright, and pure, and very calm, So did you actually hear a Dhamma talk today in the presence of the Blessed One? And of course, this Nakula Pitta says, why not, Venerable Bhante? Just now I was anointed by the Blessed One with the ambrosia of a Dhamma talk. Means this Nakula Pitta says, yes, I was actually anointed. Wow, by the Blessed One with this ambrosia of Dhamma talk. And wow, this blessing, this showering, of this Dhamma talk, and this Bhante Sariputta actually asked, the Nakula Pitta, what kind of ambrosia of a Dhamma talk did the Blessed One give you? Then of course Nakula Pitta repeated what the Buddha said, let my body be afflicted, let my body be sick, but let my mind not be sick, Then this uh Venerable Sariputta, of course, he was very sharp. Like, say, did it occur to you, Upasaka, to question the Blessed One further as to how is one, sick in body and sick in mind, and how is one how is one sick in body but not sick in mind? How is it that one is sick in body and sick in mind, and how is one sick in body but not sick in mind? Didn't it occur to you that you should actually ask the Buddha? You know, then this Nakopita said, "Oh yeah, I should have asked." But But please explain to me, Venerable Sariputta, what exactly does that mean, You see, and the same thing, Venerable Sariputta actually spoke of the same thing as what the Buddha spoke of in just now, the MN 131, He says, if you actually cling on to the five aggregates as self, as permanent, unchanging self, and you refuse for these five aggregates to change, means I want my hair to be black, I don't want to have white hair, I don't expect to have wrinkles, my eyesight should be good, I shouldn't actually have this low-far, I should be young, I should be healthy, I should actually be alert, and I should be in the tip top, in health, and I should my pleasant feelings should be there, I don't want it to go away, I want it to keep on continuing. If you keep on grasping of these five aggregates, as having a self of these five aggregates, then even when you are sick, your body is sick, your mind is also sick, because the grasping, the desire, the kind of clinging, the kind of the five aggregates, the longing, makes your mind sick. That's what the Buddha says. If you actually do not understand, the non-self, the anatta, the putujana, regards the five degrees of self, then that's when that your body is sick, your mind is also sick. You see, and the last part, say, and Venerable Sariputta explained, and how Uposaka is one afflicted in body but not afflicted in mind. So this is where Venerable Sariputta explains, your body may be sick. For example, you may be ill, maybe your legs may not be strong anymore to carry you, you may be using, crutches, and you need a wheelchair, your body is not strong anymore, you have white hair, wrinkles, and all this, because your body is old. But the person who actually truly understands non-self, he truly has, has actually understood non-self, to a very profound level, he's penetrated the Dhamma, then he understands, actually this is intrinsic nature of all Dhamma, of all things, Sabit Dhamma Anatta, is I'm not excluded, even the Buddha, who was so supreme, that he had to endure, sickness in the body, towards then, when he was like reaching 80 years old, he was like having pain here and there. He had to sit down, he had to rest, and he had to like, you know, rest in the lying posture. And sometimes he asked Venerable Sariputta or Moggallana to continue with the Dhamma talk, he actually had aches, body afflictions, but the Buddha, was not actually afflicted in mind, because he knows, all these are actually what anatta, non-self, is subject to change. It's like intrinsic in nature in all things, because what, it's all dependently arisen. They're there because they are constructed, they are fabricated by causes and conditions. If conditions change, whatever, your FI agrees also change. Nothing stays forever. So that's why from anatta you understand anicca. So but if you just understand anicca alone, you may not understand anatta. You see, so that's why seeing rising and falling alone is not good enough for liberation, because just by seeing anicca, you do not actually see the intrinsic empty nature of all things, like sunyata, which is so something that's so highly emphasized in the Dhamma teaching. Even the Tibetan Buddhism, in even Mahayana Buddhism, like they emphasize a lot on this sunyata, this emptiness, because of what? Because of non-self nature, So so if you're able to actually see this non-self nature alone, then you actually would have actually understood non-self nature. And that's where, even if your body is actually sick, your mind is not sick, you're not taken in, you're not affected. So what? Why hell? So what, doesn't matter what. That's how it is, that's because it's what, non-self nature is anatta, wrinkles lah. So what? I don't have to apply whatever cream or go and pull my skin, and go and have all this injection to pull my skin or what. No need. So what? Wrinkles are. So what? That's actually part of seeing the true underlying nature of what anatta. non-self nature. So if you're able to see this, then you are, even though you're sick in body, you are not sick in mind. So it's a very profound sutta. Just look at SN 22.1. What the Buddha told Nakula Pitta. And if you look at MA 143, this Anatta Pindika, also a very, very moving sutta about this Anatta Pindika who was on the deathbed. This strong supporter of Buddha Anatta Pindika. There was one time he was on a deathbed, and on the last moments of his day, he was about to pass away. And he actually asked his servants to actually invite Venerable Sariputta to come to his home, because he had this strong affinity towards Venerable Sariputta. And when Venerable Sariputta actually came to this Anatta Pindika's home, he actually asked Anatta Pindika, so how are you, Upasaka, are you actually holding up well, no, and you see this paragraph here, Anatta Pindika described his condition then. He said, no, Bante, I am not getting well. The pain is terrible and growing, not fading away. He was feeling a great amount of pain. The winds piercing my head are so severe, he could feel, like really throbbing pain. It feels like strong man drilling into my head with a sharp point. Means it feels as though there was like someone using a screwdriver to screw into his head, so pain. And it's so severe. It feels like a strong man tightening a strong leather strap around my head. Can you imagine putting a strap? You use a belt, and strap the belt around your head. You can imagine that it's so severe. The winds slicing my belly are so severe. Like a butcher, opening a cow's belly. The burning in my body is so severe. It feels like two strong men grabbing me, and throwing me into a burning pit of glowing coals. So so the kind of pain you feel, like on your deathbed, due to illness, it's really, really something that's really dukkha. This is dukkha. So the Buddha, the Reverend Sariputta again taught him the very same thing, of not grasping means seeing non-self in the five aggregates. The same teaching, non-self nature. It's not saying anicca, it's saying anatta, Non-self means you must be able to see how things arise, through and ceases through causes and conditions. You cannot just simply see rising, falling, rising, falling. That's not good enough, that is just going to sharpen your alertness only, but it doesn't lead to wisdom, So to have wisdom, you must actually see anatta, That's why in SN 22.59, if you remember the five bhikkhus, in this Varanasi, at that time, the Buddha actually remembered when the Buddha actually gave this first sutta, of turning the wheel of the Dhamma, right? This there was only one bhikkhu that actually attained stream entry, But then this Kondanya, but then the other four bhikkhus still had not actually become stream enterers. So the Buddha in this sutta, he actually spoke about this anatta, this non-self, that immediately, um, after listening to this non-self sutta, this discourse on non-self, all the five bhikkhus became arahants. You see, towards the end of it, this is what the Blessed One said, gratified the group of five monks delighted at his words. And while this explanation was given, the hearts of the group of five monks, through not clinging, were fully released from fermentations and effluents. So you see, the Buddha actually guided them to understand what anatta means, in terms of the five aggregates. You see, the Buddha actually asked a few questions to these monks. He said, he asked the monks, is form self, uh, uh, um, he asked, the five monks, form, monks is not self. The Buddha says, if your body, were the self, means if your body actually had a self, means your body arises without, not dependently arisen through causes and conditions. Means your body is there, and does not arise through causes and conditions. Means it doesn't depend on conditions. Then you can actually instruct your body in whatever way you want, right? For example, if you had if you're actually down with a cold or flu, influenza, or you down with COVID, then you tell your body, please do not be sick, go away, this illness, this disease, this flu or whatever, cold or whatever running nose you have, or whatever cough or sore throat, the sore throat, or COVID, or the fever, go away now immediately. I command you, because I have the full control, because the body is not dependent on conditions, the health is not dependent on full condition. So I have to command you, to be healthy now, but the body does not listen to you, right? The body is there because of our cautious and conditions, So do you think you can actually command the body to behave like that? You cannot. You must eat what? Antibiotics. You must take, all the painkillers, all the flu medicine, your cough syrup, to what? To actually to get well, to get yourself well again, So the Buddha says that if your body has a self, you can control, you can fully control your body, you can fully control and dictate and direct it the way you want it, and you can even ask your body, please let me be more good looking, cannot, your body is there through causes and conditions, through your karmic, energy you're committed in the past, or may I actually grow stronger, or taller, let my limbs be longer, and my features be like, all the actors, wow, and may I be, super attractive. You cannot do that because it's already there, it's already karmic energy, it's already through causes and conditions, you cannot ask, you cannot dictate. Because if you say that the body has a self, means the body is not dependent on conditions, it is not dependently a reason. This is what self means, in the teaching of the Buddha, when you have a self, means it's there without causes and conditions, you know and it's not dependently a reason. For example, if you see a flame, right, the flame is there, without, if you say the flame has a self, means the flame is there without conditions, means it doesn't require oil, doesn't require wick or anything, it's just there, it has a self. It's not tenable, right? It doesn't, it is not, it is intrinsically not that way, So the Buddha says the same goes for feeling, perception, consciousness. All these are because they are actually non-self, you cannot dictate. And the Buddha says here, you see, the way the Buddha taught, he says is form constant or inconstant? Inconstant, Bhante. And what is inconstant? Is it dukkha? Yes, dukkha, Lord, And is it fitting to regard what is inconstant, anicca and dukkha, as having a self? It means having an atta. And then the monk said, no, You see, the Dhamma is taught in such a way that the Buddha doesn't just stop on anicca alone, Constant or inconstant, the Buddha doesn't stop anicca. Once you see anicca, you must actually then contemplate dukkha, This means unsatisfactory, unsatisfactory, because anicca, then is dukkha. And if something that is dukkha, unsatisfactory, can you actually say is atta? Not, cannot. Then it's anatta. So that's why, because you cannot control, right? That, and it arises through causes and conditions. So it's something that's actually not satisfactory. It's very unsatisfactory. It's dukkha intrinsically. So the Buddha start from anicca, dukkha, and anatta. But you cannot just contemplate anicca alone, rising, falling, rising, falling. It doesn't lead to wisdom. It's just sharpening your alertness only by contemplating rising, falling, but it doesn't lead to wisdom. That's why after listening to the Buddha, these 5 bhikkhus, they contemplated, they applied sati sampajañña, and they also applied this kayagata sati, they know, okay, everything arises through causes and conditions. That's why it's anatta, that's why it's empty, nothing to cling to. So immediately they became arahants, Because for us, we are perhaps not spiritually as advanced as them. We listen to anatta, yeah, we understand. But that is just, knowledge only, But you need to apply, in your daily contemplation until you reach, a profound level of penetrating, then you become a stream enterer, The eye of the Dhamma arises in you, like a clean, immaculate piece of cloth, that is able to dye, everything perfectly well, So this is very profound, this anatta, That's why the Buddha says that if you can practice this for one day, then it's a truly lucky day for you, And this anatta itself, is something that's very special, to only the Dhamma taught by the Blessed One. If you can see MN11, the shorter discourse on the lion's roar, again, it's a very interesting sutta. Here, this Venerable Sariputta, actually declared, that um, you see here, on one occasion, the Blessed One was staying, in Savatthi, right? And then the Buddha says only here in the Dhamma that he taught, is only here there is actually a recluse, a second recluse, a third recluse, and a fourth recluse. What does that mean? The Buddha says only in the Dhamma teaching taught by me can you actually find the four the four types of Aryas, the four types of uh, the enlightened beings, starting from the Sotapanna, the Sakadagami, the Anagami, and Arahanships. This is what he means by recluse, second recluse, third recluse, fourth recluse. Only in the Dhamma taught by the Blessed One, can you find those four categories of Aryas? If you actually look at other religions, you cannot find Aryas. And what is the reason for that? And on what strength of argument that support, and what authority uh because other sects are, the other non-Buddhists might ask you, why, on what basis do you say that, that only, they are actually enlightened beings in the teaching of the Buddha. Then of course this sutta is very long. I shall not go into it, but you can read it in your free time. I just want to highlight the essence of it. You see, what is different between the Dhamma, taught by the Blessed One, and all other teachings? If you look at it very carefully, the Buddha says here, those certain recluses and Brahmins claim to propound the full understanding of all kinds of clinging. They do not completely describe the full understanding of all kinds of clinging, grasping. Everybody, all religions, if you actually look at other religions, they all talk of some, not all, some talk about grasping. They describe the full understanding of clinging to sensual pleasure, without describing the full understanding of clinging to views, rules and observances, and the doctrine of self. If we talk about clinging, the Buddha says there are four types of clinging. Clinging to sensual pleasure. Everybody is prone to that. Everybody, enjoys the five chords of sensual pleasure. So there's clinging to sensual pleasure, clinging to views. The views you have, are very, very strongly, fixated in you. And some people are very stubborn. They don't want to change their views. What my teacher taught me is true. What you are saying here is untrue. What do you think? What right do you think? That you think that you think what you're teaching is correct. What my teachers taught is true. My teacher, is like, wow, really a famous teacher. What he teaches me is correct. What you thought is actually nothing. You misunderstood the Dhamma. And what I understand is correct. What you teach me is wrong. I will not listen to you. So the views, are something you cling to. Because the ego is there. It's like, well, I'm correct. My teacher is correct. What I approach, and what I practice so far is correct. You refuse to acknowledge what you have practiced so far is incorrect based on what the Buddha has explained to us, but you refuse because of your ego, because of self. I don't want to admit defeat. It's so embarrassing. So I want to hold on to my view. And clinging to what rules and observances means you a lot of these rituals. Uh, as what the Brahmins in the Buddha's time, they cling to these rites, rules and observances, and clinging to the doctrine of self. This atta is something that's very, very deep in every being. That's why the Buddha says it is the ignorance, the avijja, this dark cloud, the darkness that enshrouds us is what? It's because of the vipallasa, the wrong view of a self. We understood everything wrongly. We have been tricked by this mind that there is a self in everything. This is the ignorance, it's the avijja, that leads to all the defilements, the asavas, because of what? The ignorance, this avijja of a self, this atta, is so difficult to uproot, that the Buddha has taught us non-self contemplation, and meditation that enables to see through the underlying true nature of all Dhamma, which is non-self. And only in the Buddha's teaching can you find non-self, you see. Then the Buddha says, towards the end, those certain recluses and Brahmins claim to propound all these kinds of clinging. See, they 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 do not actually they may actually describe towards the last, they may describe only the full understanding of sensual pleasure, views, and rules and observances. Means other religions, they actually talk about, they explain what clinging to this sensual pleasure, clinging to views, clinging to rules and observances, but they do not describe the full understanding of clinging to a doctrine of self. This is where the really, really special and unique teaching of the Buddha is. This is actually on this teaching of anatta, this non-self. It is so profound, that that it's very difficult to actually see this, unless you actually contemplate it, and practice it, and like verify this personally and experientially. Then only then you're able to see what the Buddha says and what the Buddha taught is true. That's where you develop this unshakable faith in the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha through experiential verification. It's something that you have truly understood. That is a hallmark of a Sotapanna. There's no more doubt. And also the Sakaya Ditti is not there anymore. He has uprooted this Sakaya Ditti. This identity view has been uprooted, which means this Sotapanna has perfect view. Perfect, very perfect and view that that there's actually that there's actually a non-self. There's no self to it, to any Dhamma. This Sakaya Ditti has actually been uprooted. And the doubt itself has been uprooted. And of course the clinging to rules and observances have also been uprooted. So that's why a hallmark of a Sotapanna is, how does he become a Sotapanna? Because he actually practices contemplation of non-self. If you just practice seeing rising, falling, can you actually eradicate Sakaya Ditti? You cannot, because you don't see how Dhamma arises through the interplay of causes and conditions. Because of that, you don't see the empty nature. So that's why it's very, very important to actually see this non-self. Even for example, at Dalai Lama, the Venerable Dalai Lama, if you actually watch his YouTube, but there was one very interesting YouTube I saw when he actually visited he actually went to this Buddha Gaya, this the Bodhi temple, and he actually a lot of these reporters all thronged to him, this Venerable Dalai Lama, and he asked about, what is what is the Buddha's teaching and all this. Then he gave a very profound statement. He said, I may be seeing you, a reporter, as a person, a reporter, but actually, you are just body, feelings, perceptions, volitional formations, and consciousness. He just says that one statement. It's so profound, that he says, actually, you're non-self. You may actually be a person, but you're non-self. So you see, this is truly the true essence of the teaching of the Buddha. Nowhere else can you find. Other teachings may teach you dana, sila, yeah, where it's common in most teachings lah. Other teachings like giving is better than receiving. You should support your parents. All these are dana, sila. You should not perform all these evil actions. To a certain extent they are similar. Of course there are differences in terms of the sila as well, but Dana Sila actually is a common thread. But if you actually look at the Bhavana part, this is where the teachings of the Buddha truly shines. It's about this non-self nature that is so profound that once you are able to practice it just for one day, and you're able to penetrate the Dhamma, and become a stream enterer, I tell you, you are really the most auspicious person in the world. Better than any king or queen, in the world, or universal monarch, or even hitting the jackpot. You can have millions of dollars, but it's not worth a 1/16 of actually attaining stream entry. So this is what the Buddha, teaches, and that's why in this, if you want to go back to look at this AN 4.41 about samadhi, the Buddha actually talks about 4 types of samadhi. But of course, I will not actually expound on this. I just want to highlight 2 parts, which the Buddha actually described, the difference between just seeing rising and falling only, which means that whatever you contemplate, I just see rising, falling. For example, I see greed, hatred, delusion, lobha, dosa, moha arising in my mind. I just watch. A lot of teachers actually teach that, right? You just sit there, don't do anything, watch your breath, or maybe rising, falling of your abdomen. Then when anger arises, don't do anything. Just keep on watching only. Anger, oh, it comes, it goes, it comes, it stays, it goes. Or greed, or comes, it stays, it goes, and do not be involved in it, just look only, rising, falling, But if you read the suttas, the Buddha never taught in such a way, The Buddha never asked to you to just be, just sit there and just watch rising, uh, passing away, rising, ceasing, rising, ceasing, rising, ceasing. The Buddha never teaches you that, The Buddha actually says, here in this AN 4.41, the Buddha says, and what is this development of samadhi when developed leads to this mindfulness and alertness only. This is a case where feelings are known to the monk as they arise, as they persist, as they subside. And the perceptions and the thoughts, as they arise, as they see, as they persist, as they arise, they persist, as they subside. Means you don't do anything, but just look, rising, falling, rising, ceasing, rising, ceasing, rising, ceasing. The Buddha says, if you do this, it only leads to mindfulness and alertness only. Means you're just sharpening your mind, alertness only. But the Buddha says this is in contrast to this samadhi, where there's a case where the monk remains focused on arising and falling with reference to the five aggregates, not just in terms of arising and falling, but you actually ask yourself, such is the form, such is the origination, such is the passing away, which means how does this form arise, and how does this cease, and how does the feeling arise, and how does the feeling cease, so which means you actually look at five ways in terms of what, how do they arise, how are they dependently arisen, how do they arise through causes and conditions. You must ask yourself that question to see how they are interlinked. That's where you're able to see anatta, non-self, is empty of a self. Only then you're able to penetrate the Dhamma, and only then you're able to see Sakaya Ditti, you're able to uproot Sakaya Ditti, and able to have this avijja pachaya, avijja pasada, avijja pasada means unshakable faith through experiential uh, verification on Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, and you're able to uproot the factor of attachments to rites and rituals, rules and observances. So this is the only way, if you're able to see how the origination, the passing, how it arises, how it passes away. So from AN 4.41, we can see it's not just enough to just see rising and ceasing. You must actually see how does it arise and how does it pass away. Why and how. How does it arise? What is the cause and what's the condition? You must actually ask yourself that question. And for wisdom to arise. The same thing, in 22.99, the Buddha again talks about this the dog that's actually tied to a leash, and we run round and round, on this stake, it's like through this samsara, we have actually been tricked by this mind because of this avijja, this ignorance, because of what we regards the five aggregates as self, because what we have not penetrated anatta, we have not understood anatta, we are just putu-janas, you run around, we regard self in everything, and because of that, because of this self, that's how this lobha, dosa, moha arises, and because of that, we make karma, we generate more and more karma, because because of this karmic energy itself, that leads to further rebirth, because of this avijja, this ignorance, we create more and more karma that actually will result in more sankhara and more consciousness to arise, and this consciousness will then lead to this nama rupa, and then again nama rupa again to have this sixth sense basis, leading to further birth. It's a very, very deep dukkha that we are in this cycle because of what avijja, because of self. So it's like we are running around like a dog, on like tied on the leash, running around on this post that's firmly attached to this ground. This post itself is actually our notion of self. We keep on clinging to this self, and that's why we have no we have no way of getting out. It's like we are forever this, being clinging to this self. That's why this contemplation in non-self is so important. And that's why in SN 22.122, again, these variables, Sariputta, actually tells this variable called theta, in order for you to attain, the various stages of sainthood, in those Aryahood, from first to the from Sotapatti all the way to Arahantship, you must look at the 5 aggregates in terms of what? Non-self as empty. Look at this paragraph. You must see this 5 aggregates as what? As suffering, as a disease, as a boil, as as uh as misery, as affliction, as an alien, as something that is going to fall apart, as empty as non-self, because what? They are constituted and fabricated and constructed, and how can it stay, even permanent and constant even for a single moment, nothing. Everything in this cosmic world, this cosmic universe, is in constant change, because of what? Anatta, Sabbe Dhamma Anatta. The Buddha has already penetrated this and understood this, under the Bodhi tree on the day night of his enlightenment. He has really penetrated this non-self nature, and that's why the Buddha says, it's so profound, what I've discovered, that I don't know whether I should teach the world or not, because not many people will understand, right? Everybody is so fixated on this atta, self. Everything is about me, myself. Everything is for me. Everything is for me alone. If you tell the world about non-self, not many people can understand. That's why this Brahma Sahampati said, "Oh no, the world is actually going to be suffer, going to going to actually suffer because the Buddha has hesitated, not to teach the Dhamma, then he quickly disappeared from the Brahma world and came down, in the presence of the Buddha, and asked and beseeched the Buddha, no, you must not, you must teach the Dhamma. There are those with little dust in their eyes who benefit. And the Buddha said, okay, then, he surveyed the world. Yes, there are indeed those with little dust in their eyes. So then he actually taught the Dhamma. But if you look at this, non-self is something that's so, um, uh, um, it's actually the whole reason why we have been covered by this avidya, this ignorance, if you actually read the sutta, like for example, SN 35.55, you see the Buddha says, how the monks ask this Buddha, how should one know and how should one see for the fetters to be uprooted? Then the Buddha responded by saying, Bhikkhu, when one knows and sees the I as non-self, the fetters are uprooted, When one and sees forms, it means you actually see the fetters, the forms, in terms of the contact, the feelings, the perceptions, all these that arises through contact on these 5 sense doors, the 6 sense doors, then the Buddha says if you're able to see non-self in all these, then you are able to uproot the fetters. 35.55, the same as goes for SN 35.56 to 59 is about abandoning the taints. How should you abandon the kilesas? The Buddha says you can abandon the kilesas if you are able to actually contemplate non-self in all the 6 sense bases and 6 sense objects, all the way to contact, feelings, perceptions, volitions and all this, 35.56 to 59, See, all these suttas, Buddha talks about non-self, the Buddha doesn't talk about anicca, but the Buddha talks about anatta, It's the very essence of the true Dhamma, 35.60, who understand all clinging. The Buddha says, if you understand, this anatta and able to penetrate, then you would have understood all forms of grasping, this upadana, this grasping, you would have understood it, Same as N22.81 also, the the there was once the Buddha actually wandered alone to this place called Parileyaka, this place called Parileyaka, because Buddha often he wanders alone. He doesn't want anyone to follow him. He just wants to just go alone, be in solitude, And there was once he actually went to this place called Parileyaka, and again they there was this question that arose in a certain bhikkhu's mind. How should one know? How should one see for the immediate destruction of the kilesas? Then you see how the Buddha responds, you know, and the Buddha responds as being how bhikkhu should one know, should one see for the immediate destruction of the kilesas, you know. Then the Buddha, of course, starts by saying, this Putujana, he regards the five aggregates as a self, and then if you are able to see these five aggregates as dependently a reason, then the immediate destruction taints occurs, you see. When bhikkhus, that formation is in permanent condition, dependently a reason, you see. This is what the Buddha says himself, not me. The Buddha actually says, condition and dependently a reason, you must not just see impermanent, you must see impermanent, condition, and dependently a reason. Don't just stop at anicca, Don't just look at things come rising, ceasing, Don't just stop at that. You must actually see, why do they arise? Why do they cease? And how is it dependently a reason, And if you're able to see these five aggregates in terms of this anicca, dukkha, anatta, means how is it impermanent? How is it dependently a reason? Then the Buddha says the immediate destruction of the taints occurs. You see how important this anatta is? It's really the crown jewel of the Buddha's teaching, If you actually see a lot of suttas like SN 22.15, the Buddha actually talks about important to actually contemplate, anicca. But the Buddha doesn't stop just anicca, In 22.16, the Buddha says that you must actually see that what is actually anicca is also dukkha, and what is dukkha is actually non-self nature, is actually non-self anatta, So here in 22.15, you see here, the Buddha says what is impermanent is suffering. What is suffering is non-self. You see, the Buddha doesn't just stop. You just contemplate the five aggregates in terms of impermanent. The Buddha doesn't say. The Buddha says what is impermanent is also dukkha. What is dukkha is also non-self. The Buddha actually leads everything towards the ultimatum of the true essence of the Dhamma, which is what? Anatta. The Buddha doesn't stop just as anicca, but the Buddha goes all the way to the pinnacle of the true essence of the Dhamma, which is anatta, So that's why in 20.15, the Buddha says you must actually contemplate anicca, dukkha, followed by anatta, And in 22.16, if you contemplate dukkha alone, it's not enough, You must also see what is dukkha is also non-self, And what is non-self should be seen as it really is with correct wisdom. Means you must have this sati sampajanya, Yoniso manasikara, You must have this yoniso manasikara to see as wise reflection that this is not mine, this is not I am, this is not myself. So you must not stop at just dukkha, You must actually go all the way to anatta. And then of course in 22.17, the Buddha says you must see the five aggregates as non-self. Because once you're able to see non-self, naturally you're able to see anicca and dukkha. Naturally, because you are able to see non-self means everything is subject to change through causes and conditions. But if you start with anicca, you may not see anatta, because you just see rising, coming, rising, falling, arising, ceasing, and you do not see the dependent arising nature, and you just probably feel, yeah, this is how nature is. It happens at random. Why is it anicca? I don't know. I think it's just random. That's how the world is random. That's how it is. Anicca. There's no reason. Things are just anicca. So you form the wrong understanding of the Dhamma that anicca is what the Buddha taught. Actually, Buddha didn't just stop at anicca. The Buddha goes. If you contemplate anicca, you must see dukkha and anatta, because anatta is actually the final destination, the true essence of the Dhamma, the crown jewel of the Buddha's teaching. So you see, we must always be aware, And in this 22.4, SN 22.4, again, the Buddha says, how is it that if you actually practice in accordance with the Dhamma, because remember the Buddha in DN 16 actually tells everyone, after my passing, you must actually continue to practice well, practice in accordance with Dhamma, refer to the suttas, the good references, by referring to sutta, by checking against, the sutta, to check whether what is being taught is actually in accordance, with what I actually taught. So the Buddha says, if you actually are able to practice anicca, dukkha, anatta alone. It is actually practiced in accordance with the Dhamma, So we see 22.41, the Buddha talks about just anicca, right? But 22.41, the Buddha says you must contemplate suffering as well, And 22.42, you must also contemplate non-self, That's why if you just practice anicca alone, then if you just look at the suttas, it's not in accordance with the Dhamma. Because in accordance with Dhamma, you must actually see anicca followed by dukkha followed by anatta. Or if you're able to practice this kaya gata sati, straight away you see non-self. You don't have to go through anicca, dukkha, anatta, but you go through anatta, non-self. Then naturally you're able to see anicca, dukkha as well. It comes naturally because of the way you contemplate how things arise through causes and conditions. It's something that's very profound, something so very subtle that it's sometimes the Buddha it finds it very difficult to explain to everybody. That's why the Buddha hesitated to teach the Dhamma, and it's why you see as in AN 7.48 again, you see the Buddha actually asks us to contemplate these 7 perceptions, which are cultivated are very fruitful and beneficial, and you see the what are the 7? The perceptions of ugliness means something that's actually vipalasa. We think things are beautiful, but actually they are very ugly. About death, about repulsiveness of food. But sometimes you think of food, you think of the output that's going to come out of this food. Sometimes you also feel a bit repulsed. You feel repelled to the food as well. Right? That eventually, what you find so delicious, it's going to come out as something that's so repulsive, as the output, right? So you also, when you contemplate, you also do not want to eat, right? And then dissatisfied with, with the whole world, and then towards the end, you see impermanence. You see, the Buddha says here, impermanence, suffering in impermanence, and not self in suffering. You see, that's another very strong piece of evidence, that the Buddha does not teach just anicca, You must actually see anicca, and then you must see dukkha, and then you must see anatta. Anatta is actually the final true essence of the Dhamma, So we must take heed of this, and same thing also goes for SN 12.23, also same thing, the Buddha also talks about this, looking at these 5 aggregates in terms of what? In terms of non-self, You see here, the destruction of taints is for one who knows and sees. This knows and sees is a very cryptic word. It's something, it's a clue that it applies to a sotapanna. A sotapanna knows and sees the Dhamma. So for knows and sees what, See, for one who knows and sees what, for one who sees what, does the destruction of the taints come about? You see, such is form, such is origin, such is passing away, such is feeling, such is perception, such is the sankhara, such is the vijnana. You must see the origin and the how it arises through causes and conditions. Then only then the taints comes about, not just by seeing coming, going, rising, passing away, rising, passing away. Just sit there and be passive. The Buddha never taught that, teaches that. You must apply effort, to apply uniso manasikara to see, to see the wisdom, to actually let the tree of wisdom grow, You cannot just be passive and just sit there and just and just see the tree grow. You must actually be active, apply all the fertilizers, the water and everything, so that the grease, the meal, this meal of wisdom, So you must actually apply all this, to actually see this this anatta itself, And why do the Buddha says that spending one day just contemplating anatta is so important? Because you are actually taking one step closer to Sotapatti, to stream entry. Because you're in the process on the way to eradicate, Sakaya Ditti. You see, the Buddha says in this SN 45.179 that there are these 5 lower factors. What are these 5 lower factors? It's actually this Sakaya Ditti, right? This identity view, this doubt, and then this this clinging, to rules and observances, and then sensual desire and ill will. These are the low 5 lower factors. And of course, the Noble Eightfold Path should be practiced to actually uproot these 5 lower factors. Okay, so out of these 5 lower factors, in this Digha Nikāya, wait, let me see. What is this Tika Nikaya? Sorry, this DN what? DN28, sorry. DN28. The Buddha says, DN28, the Buddha knows by rational applying the mind to another individual. Means when the Buddha knows this for sure because he's able to read people's minds, using his psychic power. The Buddha is able to encompass his mind on the mind of another individual. So when he does this, he knows with the ending of three factors, three lower factors, this individual becomes a stream enterer, not liable to be reborn in the underworld, bound for awakening. So you see, when you become a Sotapanna, the woeful plains, of being a Peta, in the animal kingdom, the horrible world of the animal kingdom, of self-devouring each other, and also the hell. These three woeful plains are closed, to the Sotapanna. He can never descend into any of these woeful plains, but instead, as a very aristocratic, high-ranking human being, or even in the Deva world, and up to 7 lifetimes. So only if you're able to uproot these three lower factors. Three lower factors, what just now I mentioned to you in this sutta just now, the Sakayaditi, in terms of the doubt, and also the clinging to rights and rules and observances. So if you're able to overcome these three lower factors, then you become a Sotapanna. So that's why this practice of this non-self contemplation is so important. That the Buddha says if you can do it for one day, then it's a lucky day for you, because you are being mindful, you have sati sampanjanya, you're able to apply yoniso manasikara using samatha vipassana, all the things that Buddha has taught you, you apply. For one day, you really truly have an auspicious day, because then you are closer to actually attain Sotapatti. And as you can see from this SN 25.1, right, Sotapatti is somebody who sees and knows and sees, how actually this SN 25, how 10 of these things arise through causes and conditions, starting from the eye, the form, the consciousness, the contact, the feelings, the perceptions, the sankhara, the intention, the craving, the properties, the in terms of the elements, the 6 elements, and the aggregates, all these arise through causes and conditions. If you're able to see this and they are impermanent, then one fine day, the Dhamma eye will arise in you. And in SN 13.1, the Buddha says, once you become a Sotapanna, then your suffering in this samsara is just like the sand in his fingernail compared to the great earth. The suffering left is only 7 lifetimes only, up to 7 lifetimes, up to, not 7, up to 7. And in SN 13.7, the Buddha says, if you become a Sotapanna, then your suffering in this samsara is just like 2 or 3 drops of water compared to the vast ocean, the Pacific Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, the Indian Ocean. Can you imagine the water, the volume of water there? But the suffering that you have to suffer as a Sotapanna is just what? 2 or 3 drops only, It's only up to 7 lifetimes compared to the inconsiderable samsara, No beginning, no end. And if and if you become this Sotapanna, in AN 6.97, the Buddha says you're certain of the true Dhamma, you are not subject to falling back. It means you can never fall back, to become a Putujana anymore. You are basically as you have attained Sotapatti, there's no suffering over what has a limit placed on it, which means up to 7 lifetimes. You have this uncommon knowledge, and you rightly see the cause along with causally originated phenomena. You see, again, some people say Sotapatti, no need to contemplate, no need to meditate one. Just go there and listen to Dhamma talk, just like, the Buddha's time, people just go there, listen to the Dhamma talk. Buddha gave the graduated discourse to the Buddha, and immediately, lo and behold, they become Sotapanna, So I should just go and listen to Dhamma talk, and read a lot of suttas, no need to meditate, But you look at this 6.97, one rightly sees cause, along with causally original phenomena. What I just explained to you, you must see the cause and why and how the Dhamma, the phenomena arise through causally originated, phenomena, how each phenomenon arises through causes and conditions, how it is causally originated and dependently arisen, If you're able to see this, only then it counts as fruit of stream entry. If you don't see this, it's not counted, it's actually fake stream enter, fake stream entry, self-declared stream entry, So you must actually have your own yardstick to see whether you're a stream enterer or not. No need to boast, whether you're a stream enterer or not, but you yourself will know whether you're a stream enterer or not. If you actually are able to see this, the eye of the Dhamma, then you can tell yourself, I'm a stream enterer, but you don't have to boast, you know yourself, if you're able to meet this criterion, then you will actually attain the fruit of stream entry. But it doesn't come naturally. You have to practice. You have to put it into practice by seeing non-self. It's not something that comes naturally by reading sutta or by listening to Dhamma talk. Listen to Dhamma talk is possible if you listen to Dhamma talk, but you contemplate in your mind what is being taught now by the Dhamma speaker in terms of this, how things arise, conditions. You're able to see, penetrate into it. Then the Dhamma eye may arise. That's why in the Buddha's time, all these Supa Buddha, all these Uga and all these, they are able to become Sotapanna because what? When the Buddha spoke about the great gradual discourse of the Buddha, they were contemplating, they were using Yoniso Manasikara to contemplate. It's not as if they just listen and and don't apply attention and and wise reflection. They were applying wise reflection. That's why they're able to attain this profound, this Ariyahood, of Sotapatti, So you see, in SN 55.1, the Buddha says, even if you are the universal monarch, you're still, you are not exempted from the three woeful planes. You may have all the treasures, you may go to the heavens, have all the nymphs and all the devis, support, playing with you, day and night, giving you a lot of sensual pleasure. But beware, once your good karma is exhausted, and the bad karma starts to arise, that's where, it comes in bunches. This good, this bad karma. Once the conditions are there, immediately you disappear from the heavens. Immediately go down to hell. There have been accounts of that now. It doesn't mean you're exempted, from the hell, and the woeful plane. So that's what it says. It is still very scary. Even though you're a king, of the world, you're the king, the queen. Doesn't mean you will not fall into hell anymore. You can anytime you can go there, but if you become a Sotapanna, then you have the insurance. You have bought the insurance, then you can never fall down, to the woeful plains, and only up to 7 lifetimes, and you only become a human or a Dewa. How nice, right? If you become a Sotapanna, it's really, you can take a slow boat out of samsara, up to 7 lifetimes. You don't have to worry about going down to the woeful plains. It's so wonderful. That's why the Buddha says, it's a lucky day if you're happy, if you can actually practice this contemplation of anatta just for one day. Remember, not just anicca alone, but you must contemplate all the way to dukkha and anatta. But you can also start from contemplating anatta alone, and you see immediately you can see anicca also. And this SN 15.9, the Buddha says, this transmigration, this samsara, is really has no beginning and no end, and it's very scary, very truly scary, if you think about it. If you are anytime you say a being actually passes away, from one realm to another, the Buddha says it's just like throwing a stick high up into the air, And the Buddha says, there's suppose a stick was tossed up in the air. Sometimes it falls on the bottom, sometimes in the middle, sometimes the end. It's the same for beings transmigrating and roaming in this samsara, shrouded by ignorance, shrouded by this atta, by this very deep root of atta, and fettered by craving. Because of this atta, you have this craving, sometimes they go from this world to other world, sometimes they come and go, just like being tossed around like a stick, sometimes here, sometimes there, It's truly scary, like really samsara. So we must take heed of the Buddha's words and practice this contemplation of anatta right here and right now, just like what Buddha says in MN 131. Until we attain Sotapatti, in this very lifetime, at least attain Sotapatti in this lifetime, then your life will not be in vain, as a human being. Otherwise, you would have lived really as you have wasted your opportunity as a human being, in the time when the Buddha Sasana is still around, is still alive. You don't practice it, you are negligent, you do not actually contemplate anatta, and you are very negligent. You just take it very easily, you know, and oh, never mind, I just do dana sila lah, never mind lah, you know, and as long as I observe my sila well, you know, I don't do the 10 unwholesome, the 10 to charita, observe my 5 precepts, I also also observe my 8 precepts. Then now I go up to heaven, you know, I stay there for a long time, and don't worry lah. I mean, I don't have to meditate, but be careful, you know, what the Buddha says in that universal monarch there, you know, you are not exempted. Anytime when the bad karma rears its head like a snake, that's where, you know, you never know, you know, conditions may arise, you know, where this will happen, you know, because everything is anatta, you know, it's so constant in conditions. Things may change, everything's in a flux. It doesn't mean everything will stay the same forever, you know. So you must be ready, you know, and your mind must not be sick whenever it happens. Even though your body may be sick, your mind must not be sick. That's what the Buddha tells this Nakula Pita, you know, and that's what in this Dhammapada 178, the Buddha says, compared to being sole ruler of the earth or going to heaven, that means you are the universal monarch, you are the queen, you know, or king of this big kingdom, you know, in the whole world, you know, and you rule the world, or you go up to the heaven, you know, you are Deva, you are Brahma, you know, you go up to heaven, all dominating the entire world, means this whole world is actually under your rulership, you know. The Buddha says, this is nothing, not 1/16th compared to stream entry. Attaining stream entry is more superior, far excels, you know. So, again, the Buddha in this SN 55.30, you know, the Buddha again highlights, you know, that once you become a Sotapanna, you know, then and you have these 4 things as a stream enterer, then you will not reborn in the underworld, you know, bound for awakening. Bound for awakening means what? Means niyato, you know, means you have entered the stream, you know. The stream is flowing towards the inevitable destination of arahantship, you know, the final liberation, you know. The stream flows, you know, destined towards the direction, and you can never regress back, you know, to being a putujana anymore. You know, you may be reborn in the next life as a deva, as a human being, but for some strange reasons, you will find the Dhamma will find you, or you find the Dhamma. Somehow you gravitate towards that interest in the Dhamma will pull you back towards Dhamma. You know, you somehow you will be back into the Dhamma family again. You know, and that's where you suddenly realize, oh yeah, I've actually learned about this anatta, you know, and I remember this, you know, and I truly I've understood this. Then you just practice for a while, you know, then you become a Sakadagami, or you know, Anagami, you know, and all the way arahantship, you know. So it's that wonderful, you know, niyato, you know, destined for enlightenment. You can never regress back, you know. So that's why this contemplation of this anatta, I shown you so many suttas, you know, we must be careful, you know. Sometimes we hear a lot of teacher teach like sati alone, you know, is very important, you know, that you just see rising, falling, rising, cessation, you know. Don't be involved in it, you know, just sit there and watch only, be passive, you know. But if you read the suttas, the Buddha never thought that. You're supposed to apply effort, you're supposed to see how, you know, each phenomenon, the Dhamma, arises through causes and conditions, how everything, including your 5 aggregates, arise through these 5 aggregates, you know, including your 5 aggregates arise through causes and conditions, you know, how they are dependently a reason. Then only then you're able to see non-self, and that's when just now I showed you the Silavan Sutta, right? You know, if you are already a well-practiced person or well-practiced monk, you must practice and see these 5 aggregates as non-self. Then only you're able to attain Sotapatti, you know. There's no other ways. And the Buddha says only in his teaching can you find the 4 types of Aryas. Because of what? Precisely because of this teaching of anatta, you know, looking at the 5 aggregates as non-self. Then only then you're able to penetrate the true Dhamma, you know, up to the stage we're able to see, you know, that everything is non-self. Because if you actually look at non-self, you know, then you become dispassion, you know, you becomes actually a bit disillusion and dispassion. You're able to let go more, you know, and you're able to accept more, because you know everybody is there through causes and conditions. The person is like that, you know, through causes and conditions. You can never change the person, so you just accept him, you know. Otherwise, you suffer only, right? You know, when you expect a lot of things actually a lot of our suffering because we expect a lot of people, other people to do the way we want it to be, right? Because we expect people to conform to our wishes because we don't understand anatta, non-self. Because non-self is when you understand everything arises, causes and conditions, that's how they are. Then you become more accepting, you become more forgiving. Then you actually grasp less, you become more equanimous, you suffer less, then you'll be able to let go more, That's when you're able to actually grow spiritually from one stage to another, from Sotapatti all the way to Arahantship. So I would actually urge all of you to heed the advice of the Buddha, as what Buddha said in MN 131, make every day a lucky day, Don't actually hope of that, lucky day will just come, say for example, when I go to a meditation retreat, sit down, cross-legged, watch my rising, falling of the moon, or watch my breath, then only then I'm lucky to go on a meditation retreat. No, lucky day is every day, you can actually contemplate, by just fixing your attention, your mindfulness on a sixth sense basis and how your mind reacts to it, practice Kayagata Sati, you have this Yoniso Manasikara, see how everything arises in true conditions, see the non-self nature, and let go, increasingly let go, then, one fine day, lo and behold, this light of stream entry will, arise in you, and the Dhamma eye arises in you. That's where, it's a you are truly a lucky and auspicious person, It's like, nobody, can actually compare to you, if you attain stream entry, So that's why, the Buddha again says, if you truly are able to practice just this for one day, then you would have had a lucky auspicious day. So today, I'm just going to highlight to you the importance of this anatta, this non-self contemplation. That is part one. So part two, I'm going to actually go through in detail with you how, we should actually contemplate this five aggregates in terms of non-self in order for us to attain stream entry, and, up to 7 lifetimes only, and woeful planes are closed, and you have all the either as a human or Dewa realm, take a slow boat out of samsara up to 7 lifetimes, if you're really not spiritually so strong, but 7 lifetimes, but up to only, some people may actually attain arahantship even before the 7 lifetimes, so next week, I will then share with you again, how the Buddha has actually, taught in terms of actually seeing this anatta based on, the sutta references, then I'll be able to share, greater detail with you. Yeah, that's all. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brother Loo, for today's sharing. Now let's dedicate those merits that we accrued so far to all beings, whether they are seen or unseen. Akasata cha bummata deva naga mahiddika punyang tamanamojitva siram rakantu loka sasanang ettavata cha amhehi sampadang punya sampadang sabbe deva sabbe bhuta sabbe sattha anumodantu sabba sampati siddhya. Idang me nyati nang hotu sukhita hontu nyatayo. Idang me nyati nang hotu sukhita hontu nyatayo. Idang me nyati nang hotu sukhita hontu nyatayo. And aspirations. Imina punya kammena mame bala samagamo satang samagamo hotu yavani bana pattiya. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you everyone for watching. For other videos, please visit the links below. Bye bye for now. See you again next week.